Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey towards embracing your worthiness and creating extraordinary success? I am your host, Allison Lacusier, a certified professional coach, a professional speaker, and a female founder. As a passionate advocate for women's empowerment, I've dedicated my career to helping individuals like you unlock their true potential, cultivate unwavering confidence, and live a life aligned with their deepest desires. With years of experience in the coaching industry, I've witnessed firsthand the incredible transformation that occurs when we tap into our worthiness and step into our power. Throughout this podcast, I'll be your guide, sharing insights, tools, and strategies to help you navigate the path towards unshakable self-confidence and fulfillment. Drawing from my own journey as a successful business owner, I'll provide you with practical advice, actionable steps, and thought-provoking conversations with industry leaders. From overcoming self-doubt to setting and achieving audacious goals, we'll explore a wide range of topics designed to empower you to embrace your worthiness in every step of your life. Through these engaging interviews and solo episodes, I'll share my experiences, lessons learned, and wisdom gained from our remarkable guests who've achieved remarkable success in their respective fields. So if you're ready to leave self-doubt behind, step into your authenticity, and thrive as the empowered woman that you are, then this podcast is for you. It's time to claim your worth, align with your purpose, and manifest the success you desire. I'm thrilled to have you join me on this empowering adventure. Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Clearly Worthy podcast. And I have a guest that really, truly needs no introduction, Laura Nelson from Front Office Rocks. Welcome to the podcast, Laura.
So excited to be here. Thank you. And that's nice for you to say that. I don't know if I agree, but thank you.
No, I actually have to say, like when I first met you a couple of months ago, I think it was probably the first time you and I've ever had a conversation. I was fangirling because I have known and followed and taken your courses, and actually as a dental coach have actually sat down with my dental clients and watched your videos and chatted about them. So it felt like I was honestly like seeing a celebrity in real life. So It's such an honor to have you here.
Well, thank you. That's good to know.
So for anyone that doesn't know who Laura Nelson is, Laura, can you just give us your introduction, who you are as just a woman in dentistry, but then also the impact that you've been making in the industry for the last decade or so, and what you're working on today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And I'm super excited to be here. So I started in dentistry 20 plus years ago because I was married to a guy who went to dental school. So I was with him all through dental school, saw what they taught in dental school, what they didn't teach in dental school. A couple of years out of dental school, he wanted to open a practice. We had a 1 and 2 year old at home. I was never planning on being in the dental industry. My background is organizational development and human resources. So I was on the business route. But he decided to open a practice, and being the dental spouse, I got pulled in, and that's how my, start in dentistry started. We had a practice on the East Coast. We had a practice on the West Coast. We moved to California. That's where I live now. And he was a pretty big CEREC trainer, and he had a lot of other dentists in the office. And a lot of times they were asking more operational questions about the dental office than they were about the CEREC. And so over my first 10 years, I realized that what I do in my office, other people wanted to know about. They wanted to know how we did it. They wanted to know where, our successes. And I applied a lot of the business knowledge I knew to dentistry. And so I didn't want to be a consultant, but I felt like there was a missing need, which we can get deeper into this in a minute about like training in our dental offices. So I started an online training platform to help team members. I started that about 10 years ago. It's called Front Office Rocks. Started that hoping I could help a couple offices. We've now helped thousands of offices across the world, actually. Started speaking about 7 years ago. And really, I'm on a mission it's called Front Office Rocks because I'm about the front office. Like that's where it started. It's really about all team members and realizing the importance we all play in the bigger picture of our practices, and then about helping our patients, in my mind, keep their teeth for life, live a better life. So that's sort of my history, and this mission hasn't ended. I'm on a trajectory. I don't know when I'll get to the end, but I'm developing and doing a lot of new stuff at Front Office Rocks, which we can talk about. But that's really, I live and breathe taking care of team members because I feel like they can take care of the patients better.
I love that so much. And it's true. And I think your mission is so well needed, especially now because we're just seeing like just a lot of changes in dentistry, a lot of changes in the team members. And, as a previous dental assistant, I know that getting specific training for you is tough, but like dental assistants have their dental assisting school and their dental assisting things. But like when you work at the front desk, it's almost like where is my place here? Where's
Right.
my specific training? Like one of the most critical
Yeah.
positions in a dental office. And it's like, where is my specific training and empowerment and support? And so you've built that. What would you say, like from working with thousands of dental team members across North America, the world, if you could wave a magic wand and give all of them something that is like forever embedded in their mind to know to be true, what would that one thing be?
You are the first and last impression of every patient experience. Patients do not know if our dentists are good dentists or not. They do not know. They don't look in the mouth and judge the margins and the color shade match. They know how they feel from the very first phone call to that last goodbye. And we are that impact. And so understanding the importance that we play is huge. I mean, part of the reason I named Front Office Rocks the way I did is I could have called it front office administrators, front desk, team, admin. But I felt and feel that we are rock stars. But there's two sides to it. I need our dentists and our team members, our clinical team members, to realize how important we are in the front office. Like we are the first and last impression, right? Which is investing in the team and training and all that. But then also for front office team members, I need you to realize how important you are in this equation. Like you need to elevate yourself. You need to make sure that you recognize how great, how much you impact the entire thing. So front office rocks just kind of, it gives that energy of like, I get it, right? This is what I need to do and how important I am.
I love that so much. And that's like, I always see like issues as like internal barriers and then external barriers. The external barriers is like there's been no education for front office team members specifically until you arrived on the scene. There's a level of needing to really elevate that importance of what that team member does from like that external perspective, but then also internally for team members. Like you and I've talked a lot about this in terms of like hard conversations and being bold in some of these things. What do you see as one of the most important things as a team member needing to have that like internal belief in themselves?
Well, I think I struggle a lot with this with new employees because when we're new, we can't wait until we know what we're doing, right?
Mhm.
Like we can't wait till we understand what an MODB is and an in and out of network. And we talk all this, dental language and we're striving to like know. I would rather not know, right? I would rather take a new employee who doesn't know because
Mm,
that person's more willing to ask. That
mhm,
person's more willing to hopefully say, I don't really understand what you're talking about. Can you show me? What happens is and I say we get into a dental box, and this isn't just, this could be in any industry, but we get in a box where we seem to know it all. We're striving to be so confident in our jobs, which we all should be striving to do better. The issue is if you think you know it all, you won't ask for any help. You won't learn. You can't, if you know it all, you can't learn anything. So that's the struggle and difficult discussions, dealing with drama, dealing with patients, case presentations, like all of it comes down to true communication. And what are you looking for in this communication? If you're looking to be the expert and you think you know it all, you're not looking to learn, find out the other person's perspective, help the patient figure out what they can and can't do because you are the expert. I would rather
mhm,
you be the non-expert and ask questions and learn and grow, because that's how we're gonna improve and get better and grow in our
mhm.
positions and in our lives.
Oh my gosh, so much. Like stay curious, have a growth mindset, stay humble. Like you just know you don't know it all. And I think some of the wisest things that I've heard people say around this is like the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. And it's like it continues to open up that expanded growth mindset. And I think that's the other thing too. I know similar, I've trained dozens and dozens of team members. And it's always the scary thing for me is when somebody seems confident, but they're really not and they're scared to ask questions.
Uh,
Because then you're like, I don't know where we are here. So if you're like a team member or an entrepreneur, or anybody listening to this, I think one of the biggest skill sets that you can take or a mindset that you can take is to always stay curious, know that there's a lot you don't know, and you can really learn from anyone.
I'll tell you, I'm in a very interesting spot right now in my career. So I've owned Front Office Rocks for 10 years, but I stepped away for a couple of years, and I was letting some other people run it for a while, right? There was other, people in it for a while. Well, I'm back in. Like, I jumped back in 4 months ago, 5 months ago. So it's my face on Front Office Rocks. It's my company. I started it, everything. I know it, right? But I don't know what's happened over the last couple of years. I don't know the technology that's changed. I don't know the marketing that we've done. I don't know what decisions were made. If I got in and said, I know it all, this is my company, I wouldn't be able to fix and change and move and grow. And I'm literally back in running my company, asking questions. That's all I'm doing. I'm verifying, I'm asking questions, I'm learning. I'm like, tell me more. How did this happen? Why are we doing this now? And we're developing a better Front Office Rocks than I ever could have imagined 10 years ago when I started this, because I know I don't know it all. And I'm willing to ask those questions. And I'll be the first to raise my hand in a room and say, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, please explain to me. I mean, there's times I talk to you, Allison, and you are so smart and you say things and I'm like, I wish I sounded that way. Like, what does that even mean? Like, you just took something I said and made it sound better. And I'm like, that's awesome. Right. So you've got to be willing to realize you can't be the smartest person in the room and you don't know it all, because that just stunts your growth when you do that.
Oh my gosh, 100%. And I think like my goal is to always be the least smart person in the room, because I'm like, if
Mhm.
I'm not the smartest person in this room, then I'm learning so much. And I think it takes a little bit of like self-confidence and just self-worth and just believing in yourself to know that that's okay. Like, it's
Mhm.
okay to not know. It's okay to not have the answers. In fact, this is a great opportunity because then you get to continue to grow and expand yourself.
Right. The hard part is it's your ego. It's that
Mhm.
ego that sits in your, that voice in your head that like, I should know this, or people must be judging me, or I don't sound smart enough. Or, well, when you're listening to the voice in your head more than you're actually listening to what's going on around you, that's that you got to learn to just, the things we say. And I mean, I get a lot of my inspirations on TikTok and Instagram, right? The things we say to ourselves, I would never think to say to you or anyone else, right? So if you can somehow get that out of your head as much as possible, and we're all deal with it on a daily basis, but be willing to just go, I don't know, I need to learn something, right? I am not the smartest person in the room, for sure.
Oh my gosh, you're like speaking my language,
Yeah.
because I 100% agree with that. There is this realization that I think will change everyone's lives when they realize like the thoughts that are in their mind, the thoughts that are in their head, that is not you.
Mhm.
And when you can identify like, hey, that's a mean thought, stop it. Or even ask yourself the question like, well, who said that? Like, if I'm thinking like, oh, I'm not good enough to be here, maybe they think I'm stupid. Then you ask yourself, like, Allison, who said that? And the answer is no one, because
Uh-huh.
no one would be that mean to you. And if they are, don't be friends with them. Like, they're not
Yeah.
worth being around. So I think that's such a critical thing. Like, when it comes to learning anything new, when it comes to starting a new position, when it comes to empowering yourself as a woman in business or as a leader in business, it's really considering, what are you saying to yourself in this situation? And are you judging yourself for being a beginner, or are you being the best beginner you could ever be?
Right. The other thing I've learned over the years is I also know where my strong skills are, and I know where I'm not strong. And I put people around me who are strong in the areas that I'm not, right? So I mean, I used to call it my dream team. Like, I had my accountant, my insurance person, my bookkeeper, my lawyer, my HR person, that anytime we made a decision, I go to all of them if we're making it. And if they can agree, then I'm on board. I don't really care. If I don't understand what we're doing, I don't care, because all of those people agree and they're smarter than me in their areas. I'm not going to go to just the lawyer, because the lawyer is going to give me all the legal side of things. I'm not going to go just to HR. But so putting people around you, a best friend, a spouse, a child, an insurance person, whatever, that you can trust, because that'll help you get balance when those things are happening in your head. Like, well, let me go to somebody or a group that can help me make these decisions, because I know I'm weak in those areas, right? Like you and I were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
I'm not a detail person. So I have people around me who really love spreadsheets. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you have at it, right? Here's the data I need to know on the back end, right? So just know
Uh,
where your strong skills are and then where they're not.
100%. I open emails from my accountant sometimes and I look at the amount of detail she's put in there and I'm like, ew. But
Uh-huh.
it's you need it. We need these
Uh-huh.
things. So
Uh-huh.
it's great. So surround yourself with people that have different skill sets than you. And you know what? Sometimes they're not going to be the same as you either. Like
Mhm.
we are very like finding other people that are not similar to you and being friends with them or having them on your team is such an asset because then you have a different mind helping you think
Right.
through these problems.
Yep.
So, okay, I want to switch gears just a little bit because you've done some really cool things in the industry. And something that you've said to me that really sticks out is a lot of people kind of talked about, yeah, I'm going to build something for training administrative team members, or I'm going to build, I could have done that, or I had that idea. But there's a big difference between having an idea and then creating a nationwide training for thousands of team members in real life. And so I want to know like your mindset going through that and, believing in yourself that we see so much. And, in the theme of this podcast, we see women holding themselves back a lot.
Mhm.
I see this all the time as a coach. I know you see this in your training and in what you're doing to empower team members and women. But how did you create that resiliency of mindset or that bravery or the courage to build something that has impacted so many people?
Wow, that's a big one. Well, I'll just tell you, I haven't built it yet, if that makes sense. Like in my mind, what I want, I'm only probably half of the way there. So, having a clear dream, having a clear goal, having a clear idea of where you want to go and knowing the intention behind why you want to do it and who you're going to serve with it is the start. Now, the path to get there is not direct by any means, right? But being very clear in where you want to go and what you're trying to achieve. So I know what I want to do with Front Office Rocks. I know who I'm serving. I know the gap that I feel is out there, and I get energized by that. And then the next step is being confident in your own thoughts of how you're going to get there. That doesn't mean you don't get advice from others. That doesn't mean you don't put a dream team around you. That doesn't mean that you don't get hit off a little bit and you go right a little bit, then you go left again. But knowing ultimately where you're going and not, there's too many people who give advice to say, I mean, if you could have heard how many times I've heard, we've talked about this, how many times I've heard that's not going to work. When I decided I was going to do subscription-based website and not do DVDs, because when I started, DVDs were the thing, right? Everybody had a DVD out. When I said I'm going to have people pay monthly for access to the training, you don't know how many times I've heard that. That's not going to work. People aren't going to pay. They're not going to do it. Okay, I'm going to try it, right? I just had to stay confident in certain things. I had good advice. I had good advisors around me who said, this is the way we're going. And just because dental wasn't there doesn't mean,
Mm,
right? And so just being confident, but not being too cocky to go, this isn't making sense, right? This isn't changing. So just really being clear, I think, and then staying within the boundaries of what makes sense, but not being too confident, because I've seen a lot of things go off the rails that really shouldn't have, realigning, but knowing where you're going in the long run.
mm. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced? Like, I think I'm in year 3 of my business and I'm just starting to understand like when you say like this is the path, it's like go backwards and then go forwards and then go backwards again and then go forwards. I'm just starting to understand like the resiliency it takes. And so you've been in this for over a decade. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
Um, Hard work. Like it's not easy. I mean, my husband last night went to bed and I was like, I'll be up in a few hours. And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm having so much fun. But it's hours, right? So I'm developing what the future is, but I'm working on it now. So it's a lot of hard work. I would say the sad part of it is me back in my first 3 years, I didn't think relationships would go bad, but I've had a couple relationships over the years that they hurt when you think, oh, I'm going into business with this person, or this person will never, and they don't all go great. And the people who get you here are not the same people who are going to get you there all the time. So that part sucks, especially as a woman, I think, because we just feel like we've got this commitment, right? And then I would say the third thing is, and this just sounds crazy, maybe to some, but just have faith. I had 2 years where I wasn't running front office rocks, not really by my choice, but more of kind of like life things. And I didn't, if I would have told myself 2 years ago, I'd be sitting here right now doing the stuff I'm doing, I would have been like, there's no way. But just have faith, just keep pushing, just keep doing the right thing, and things work out for a reason, right? But it's hard because when you're in the darkest times and relationships maybe aren't working, or you're pulling all these hours and you're like, I do not even understand why I'm doing this. If you just keep doing it and have faith, I have found, not everything, but I'm still on the path, and it's just not quite the way I thought it was going to look, but it's still going towards the goal.
Yes. Oh my gosh. This is something that all of my coaches and mentors have told me. It's like, know the what, but you don't necessarily need to know the how. Like,
Right.
you'll figure it out as you go along, and you'll have your intuition, you'll have your internal guide, you'll have your network of people, your dream team that's going to support you. But it kind of like starts to lay down before you as you get there.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it doesn't go well. And I think you're right. Relationships can be the biggest heartstring, because I think as women, they matter so much to us. And
Mm.
we are emotive. We do love hard. We, believe the best in people sometimes more often than, men do. And it's just a natural skill set, I would say, and strength that women have. But yes, the relationship piece, I think, can be tough, but I think that it gives us permission to have things change and evolve and not be wrong. Like,
Mhm.
it's okay for things to fall away, or to you to grow out of them. And so in that, like, what have been some of the best like growths that you've gone through, like some of the best realizations, or your biggest, I guess, like life lessons as you've been building this?
Um, uh, First, it's to build a business, you've got to have there's got to be a need for your business. Um, so I see a lot of people trying to sell a widget or provide a service. And my question is, who needs it? Because we can try to sell all day long, but if nobody needs it, or it's not filling a need, it's
Mhm.
going to be a lot harder, right? I saw a need with the fact that we were not training our team members well, from day one. And so that's the need I was trying to fill. So really understanding, like, what is it? Why are you different? Or what is it that you're bringing to the market, or that is different than anyone else, right? I think the second big lesson I've learned is know who your people are, know who
Mhm.
you're serving. So for me, for example, my avatar, as you say, in like marketing, my person is the brand new receptionist sitting in a dental office, like, deer in a headlight. I don't understand what these people are saying. And I just took a job at a dental office, and I don't, right? That's who I serve. I serve the team members in the front office. Now, does that mean I don't educate dentists? Not at all. Does that mean I don't talk to office managers all day long? But I know who I'm serving, right? And so that keeps my focus, because I could have been brought off so many times doing other things, but I knew who I cared about, which was that person I served, And then I think the third thing is if my 50-year-old self could go tell my 40-year-old self some lessons, if my 40-year-old self could go tell my 30-year-old self some lessons, like, the older we get, the more wisdom we get, the more knowledge. And you're like, oh, right. The only thing that does not depress me about getting older is my 60-year-old self is probably going to be even more wise than I am now, because man, I'm a different person than I was when I was 20, right?
Mhm.
So that is something that's a part of having faith, I think, of just like, okay, I'm just going to keep learning and keep growing, because I'm going to continue to be wiser, and I'm going to know more about myself and my confidence and my inner self and business. And I can walk in a room now. I mean, I was just at a big dental conference that I walked in a room, was kind of out of my element, but thought, I know who I am.
Mm.
I wouldn't have done that 30 years ago. 30 years ago, I'd have been like trying to keep up with them. And, so I think that's probably a huge lesson that I've learned over the last, 20 years of doing this.
I love that. I think that's just such a really powerful message of like, I know who I am.
Mhm.
And, it doesn't mean that you don't get to grow and evolve and expand, but it just means that when you get into situations where you might be there for the first time or you might be uncertain, that you can trust yourself. And
Mhm.
you're like, yes, like I'm here for a reason. And something that I just admire about you, you're very like confident, you're clear, you're direct. Like I feel like you are like the definition of a female CEO, business owner, visionary, like somebody that's changing the industry and has changed the industry. Where do you get your confidence from?
So funny. Thank you. Because my husband and I just talked about last night how I'm too clear and confident and right. So it's funny how it's a good thing in business, but
Yeah.
um, well, I grew up in the military. So my dad's an army guy, 21 years army. So, and I'm an only child. So I'm sure that has some impact in that. Um, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with personality. People smarter than me could talk about personality styles and all of that. I think a lot of it has to do trial and error of trying things and learning. One of my philosophies is that I feel like I'm right 70% of the time. So I trust my gut. As women, we have very strong
Mhm.
instincts, right? So I feel like I'm
Mhm.
right 70% of the time. So that gives me the confidence to make decisions based off of my ability to make decisions. Now, 70% of the time ish, I feel right. 30%, I'm not right. But the part of that is to not make myself wrong when something doesn't go right. I can't beat myself up over that because okay, things don't always go right. And I have to learn from it. And so if you know you're going to learn from mistakes, you're less likely to make them, but you're also more willing to make them faster because probably it's going to work out, right? And
Mhm.
if it doesn't, okay, cool. What can I learn from it so I don't do it next time? And I would assume over life that just becomes a smaller and smaller percentage if you're learning from your lessons, right? You're not blaming other things. You're actually saying, I learned something, I won't do it that way next time. So that
Mhm.
I think confidence gives me, like I learned to trust myself. Sometimes you have to checks and balances. That's when you have your dream team or somebody around you to go, this is not financially working in my favor. Does anybody want to like put in their 2 cents? But most of the time that's really where I get the confidence.
Okay, I want to dissect that as like a nerd coach for a second because
Okay.
what you just described was just such a beautiful example of what I teach in terms of like self-worth, self-love. And
Mhm.
so self-worth and self-love, like it's something we talk about all the time. Like you have to have self-worth, you must love yourself. But the reality is it's like, well, how? Like specifically, how do we do this? And what does that really mean as a woman in business? But what
Mhm.
you said was just so beautiful. And it's the ability to trust yourself and learn, follow your intuition, follow your guide, and be okay if you make mistakes.
Mhm.
Don't make it mean something deeper than it actually is when you're making a mistake. And I see this happen again and again where a lot of women don't step forward because they're like, it's not perfect. I'm not ready. I'm not
Right.
good enough. But the reality is, you are. And the only way that you will get to that next level is by making those mistakes and making those choices. And
Yep.
so that was just so beautifully stated. And I want like anybody that's listening that maybe has a big dream or they're fearful of putting themselves out there, getting into that room or starting that business or whatever it is that you're trying to do, to remember that like trust yourself. You're not always going to be right, but trusting yourself.
The two things that I feel right now at my 50-year-old self versus my 20 or 30-year-old self, before it used to be the money in my bank account. Like how much is in my bank account? How big is my house? How are my kids dressed? Right. Now I feel like the most valuable things to me are my ability to make money and wisdom. I know if the internet went down tomorrow and I'd have no business, front office rocks no longer exist because I can't deliver, the internet's gone. I know I could walk into any other business. I could walk into the restaurant down the street that does not operate well and fix it in 90 days and be making a ton of money and be, moved up to a regional manager because I have the ability, right?
Yeah.
So the confidence to make money is more important than the money in my,
Mhm.
in my instance or my ideas. And then the other thing is the wisdom. You're not going to get wise by always doing the right thing. You're
Mhm.
not going to learn if everything always goes right for you. Um, you've got to learn from the mistakes, but the hard part, and I see people do this all the time, is beat themselves up for their mistakes, right?
Mhm.
Um, you can't beat now you can have bad days and you can be bummed out and you can be like, oh, that really stinks. But then you've got to come out of it and say, well, what did I learn from that? So that doesn't happen again.
Mm.
Or I can limit the ability, the chance of that happening again. That is where you get wisdom. Otherwise, what's the point of going through? I mean, every day is not perfect. Everything's not easy.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so true. This kind of reminds me of the thought that when you're out accomplishing your goals, when you set up this goal and you have this financial, let's just say it's $1 million. I want to make $1 million a year. It's not about the $1 million. It's about who you become on your way to that million, because it
Mhm.
means that you get into like the mindset, the skill set, the abilities, the decision making to be that kind of person. And
Right.
that's something that, like, even somebody steals all your money and your house burns down, you get to be able to do it again and again because it's who you are.
Right. Yep. And it's the habits that you learn, and it's the decisions that you make. I mean, the decisions you make today affect you 20, 30 years from now, right? Do you go to the gym? Do you get up and do you stay up a little bit? Like I'm doing work tonight or last night, nobody's going to see probably for maybe a year, because I'm working on forms and reports and things, but I know that it's going to pay off, right? And so a
Mm.
couple hours here and a couple things there make a difference, exponentially down the road. But it's hard, right? And it's hard to take that leap of faith and not know. And it's not about the money in your bank account. It's nice if there is money in our bank account.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier when there's money in the bank account, but there's ups and downs throughout life the whole time. So
Ugh, it's so true. It's so true. Okay. I think anybody that's listening is going to go out and like start their business or like get a raise or get a new job or something after they listen to this podcast. But
hopefully.
it's so inspiring. And I want to honor the work that you've done in the industry. Like, truly, you were a huge inspiration for me, even when, I was working as an office manager and I was like, this is amazing. And so I think it's amazing to think about the abilities that we have as individuals to impact people when we don't even realize it. And I think that we should all kind of consider that as we're building out our impact and building out our business and our legacy. So I want to finish with one question, which is sponsored by our friends Care Credit, who I love to say this in every single podcast because I just adore them. Who I went to them and asked, can you support my new podcast for empowering women in dentistry? And they were like, hell yes, go, let's do it. So this question is sponsored by Care Credit, but the question is, it's more of a finish the blank. And in light of empowering women in dentistry and in light of women really stepping into their greatest power, strength, confidence, if you could finish this sentence, women are worthy of.
I don't want to use your word self-love. Women are worthy of, geez, that's a big one. I just keep going back to like self-love, self-respect, but that's internal. I'm in a spot in my life that I never thought I would be. And if I didn't hold myself up, if I didn't love myself, if I didn't push through, I don't know where I would be. And people, your kids watch you, your coworkers watch you, your significant others. And the more you can love yourself and the more that you can find ways, whatever that looks like, to lift yourself up, the better everybody and everything around you. I mean, maybe you're not feeling it, but you doing it is you're being watched. It sounds creepy, but you're being watched, right? And you don't realize it. There's stuff I'm hearing from like my kids that I'm like, my son just told me a story last night of something that I did when he was like 12 and I had a conversation with him and he's quoting it back to me now. I don't remember what I said, but it made an impact on him, you know?
Mm.
So it really takes a lot of just loving yourself and realizing like, it might not be a good season. It might not be a good day. Things might be happening that's really bad to you right now. And that's okay. You'll get through it, right? Just love yourself, give yourself the whatever you need. This is a really long Care Credit answer. So thank you, Care Credit, for sponsoring.
Love it.
Love Care Credit. But yeah, I mean, there are days that I just, when stuff happens in life, you don't want to get out of bed,
Mhm.
but you got to,
Mhm.
because you deserve to,
Yes.
so
Oh,
yeah,
thank you. That was
yeah.
so good. So, so good. And really just goes back to all of the ways that that as women, as men too, but this podcast is for women. It's all of the ways that we get to expand ourselves. It all starts with that internal ability to love yourself, to care for yourself, and everything expands from there. Like
Mhm.
everything works out from there, from that internal well-being space. And so I know I've gotten to know you in the last few months. And I'm so grateful for that because I feel your resilience. I feel your strength. And, it doesn't come from just one time you've scraped your knees and you've got up. It comes from like years of just being determined and committed and passionate about what you do and not letting anything keep you down. So
And because this is for women, and this is just like, I've not said this on any other podcast, but I feel like you and I've gotten close over the time we've known each other. And for people listening, if you would have met me 7 years ago, I was a very different person. I'm the same person, but my life had never been bad up to that point, really, right? My life, I had a good upbringing. I had great kids. I had a great family. And 7 years ago-ish, my life went 180 the opposite direction. So if you would have told me 10 years ago, your life is going to end up over here, this is what you're going to look like, I would have thought you were crazy, right? I knew where I was going. I had my path, I had my mission. And then during that, as life changes, it is hard, because you just figure, what's going to happen in your life, where it's going, what it's doing. So the more you can realize, like, it doesn't matter what you do, if every single day, life's going to give you what's going to give you, and the more that you can take care of you, the more that you can recognize you're going to get out of it. And it's a season. It is literally a season. And what's on the other side of that season may be so bright, you don't even realize it. Like, you don't even know, but it's hard when you're in it. Having the strength in yourself and having whatever that team looks like around you to help you get through it is just, so it's been, those who knew me, I used to have another last name. I have a new name. I had different, everything about me is different, but it's the same. And I just wish I could tell the younger versions of me, just, stay on track. Life is amazing, but just, you got to push through some of those seasons.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Laura Nelson, everyone from Front Office Rocks. Thank you so much for everything you're doing in the industry. How do we sign up for Front Office Rocks? How do we get involved? Tell us all of the details.
So Front Office Rocks is an online training website. And so you can train your team members, up to 20 team members, on one subscription. We're all about customer service and systems. So it's a training platform, but here's the fun, cool thing about what we have now going at Front Office Rocks is we have a social side of Front Office Rocks. So it's not just about the training. We actually have communities and conversations going on. I'm doing more live events. I'm bringing people like you and other people on to say, hey, meet my community. Let me introduce you to some new concepts and new training and all of that. So Front Office Rocks is all online. I have new great social stuff going on. It's just, there's so much energy in it. So I'm trying to change our industry when it comes to really just understanding the importance of training and investing in your team and having fun while we do it. Like, training should be fun. Listening to a podcast like this should be fun. We should learn something. We should walk away and see value in it. So just check us out at Front Office Rocks. You'll find everything you need on every social platform out there.
I love it. And like for coaches too, as a coach, I have had practices purchase Front Office Rocks, and I've literally worked with the teams to be able to just implement some of the things and just learn together. And it's just such a beautiful way for the whole team to get trained in the same way. We need consistency in our practices, and it's just such a beautiful solution. So good, easy to watch, so easy to learn. And so definitely go and check it out. And I love the community aspect. So we all need a good community.
One of the things I will mention, because that's a good point you bring up, for office managers, dentists, and coaches, or whoever listening to this, I don't teach what you teach. I teach the basics. I teach how to smile. I teach how to read a report. I teach how to do a productive schedule, right? I teach the basics. And it's funny because when they learn from me, they're more willing to, it's like not mom and dad telling them how to do it. It's somebody on a computer screen, right? So, but it teaches the basics. So they're ready to be taught the higher level stuff from you, right? They're ready to have conversations around topics with their dentist or office manager or coach. Let me, you do not have to be teaching the basics anymore. Let the videos teach it. And I teach it from the perspective of in the trenches. Like they were videos in my office with, actors and my team in it and stuff. So they're interesting and fun. It's not just, behind a PowerPoint. And then it gives the ability to get the team member ready or the team ready to have the higher level conversations.
Yes, I love it. And it's just a beautifully seamless, efficient, affordable way to do it. So go and check out Laura at Front Office Docs. Go check out her Instagram. She is amazing at filming videos on there that are helpful. You can learn just from watching her page. And so thank you, Laura, for everything that you do in the industry. I'm so excited to see what the future holds for you and for the changes that you're making in our dental world. And we will see you on another episode of the Clearly Worthy podcast.